Hello. How are you, Tonya?
I'm great, Josh. How are you?
Wonderful. Could not complain. Are you in sunny Chicago?
I am. It is sunny today, and it's actually like we're having like a 55-degree day, so it's can't complain in December.
I've heard that there's a whole lot of moderate weather around the country. We get up to Idaho quite a bit for skiing, and it was 65 there yesterday, and everyone's like, "What in the world's going on?" So,
Right.
whether it's global warming, whatever, but at least enjoy for a couple days in December and call it good for right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's how we had a great fall. So can't complain that it's December and we get a 57-degree day. I don't know if that's global warming or not. People that say it's climate change, it's real. It's happening in
Yeah.
Chicago.
No kidding, exactly. Well, listen, I'm excited to dive in. We're going to have about 30 minutes together. But first and foremost, are you excited for PCMA? And give us a quick update on just what's going on and where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, convening leaders obviously is always a highlight. I think of so many people look forward to it, and certainly we are as well to not only bring the digital experience to life, but also coming back together face to face for convening leaders is such an important part. People look forward to starting their year off, at convening leaders. What's that inspiration that they might gather? Some tips and tools to put in their arsenal, and certainly, hey, we liked that, we want to take that, or that didn't work so well, and so how do we continue to learn from those insights and feedback. But it's an experiment, and it's always fun to kind of create something specific for our audience needs.
It's been fun for me to hear you guys continually reiterate that of like, hey, this is we try things, we test things, we get out in front of things, and sometimes everyone's like, that's amazing. And sometimes people are like, hey, thanks for trying that. I'm never going to do it.
Exactly. And that's okay. That's part of who we are. It's our DNA. And if we don't lead by example in one way, shape, or form, then how that in and of itself is a learning process, right? When you think about a design process, you have to iterate, and that's constant improvement and growth and learning and, failing forward.
It's funny not to get too philosophical for a minute, but I was talking to but I will. Me and my adult brother, he was talking to me, I don't know, this was probably 2 years ago, and he was ranting about all the things that mom and dad did wrong as parents. And I said, Jeremy, mom and dad gave us two gifts. They gave us the gift of what to do and what not to do. And then we get to approach life as parents now and go, man, I couldn't stand that dad or mom did that. I'm never going to do that. But that's a gift that was given to you that you get to pass on. And that's really the heart, I think, behind PCMA is like, look, we're going to give you two gifts. We're going to always give you the gifts of like, wow, try this, and the gifts of, hey, don't do that. And that's part of the high tide rising all ships. That's part of learning from one another and carrying legacy forward. And so, we just appreciate what you guys do. We understand the philosophy behind it, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, lots of great content. I think that people always are looking for those, not just the nuggets, but you always kind of say like, what are the 2 or 3 things that I can take away from this educational experience, wherever it is, right? Yep. And I've gotten something out of it. And I think that for us, we know a lot of that takes place in the classroom, and just as much takes place in those peer-to-peer learnings, right? Whether it is intentional that you sat down in a conversation starter or logged in and had a great conversation with somebody, or if you actually were, standing in line for a cup of coffee and you hear 2 people talking and then it becomes 3, right? And I think the cool thing about what that can do in JUNO is that video chat, that people can have that too, right? You can see somebody in the directory or realize like, oh, hey, Jackie was in this session, I'm going to go message her and, reach out to her. Again, yes, it is the orchestrated serendipity. It's one of the trends that we believe in. And I think, when we started working together in 2020, talking about convening leaders, you and I having that conversation about building community and cohorts was very much around creating those moments of orchestrated serendipity. And that's why we chose JUNO as our platform.
Yeah. And there's so much that we're going to unpack here in the next few minutes, but even what you just talked about, it's, I'm in awe. Yesterday I was reading an article on Meta, the meta universe.
Yes,
And
everybody
you know,
is.
as a 41-year-old now old guy compared to like the world of you know, that's always moving, I thought to myself, man, I just don't know about that, blah blah blah. And then I started thinking, my son and my sons, but my oldest son especially, if you look at the amount of time he spends interacting with his best friends, and we're a very active family. We're in multiple travel sports. I mean, it's life. Our life's busy.
Same.
There's still more time spent with that headset going, "Hey, what's up, Cannon? How you doing? Hey, what's up?" You know, and they're playing, and you're like, they live in a different world, and it's normal for them. And so I think what we have to remember as leaders is that digital currency, digital connection, and I don't mean financial currency, I mean like what we're doing right now. Think about how much time you and I had spent together. And I think we just met last summer physically. Remember in that Starbucks in Chicago? And then we walked in like, yeah, that was the first time we'd met, but we had done this. And I felt like when we met, I didn't feel awkward. I didn't feel like I didn't know you. It was like, yo, what's up? Hey, you know. And so I think we have to realize that this is normal and it's not abnormal anymore. So now how do we plan it? So let's take one step back. You guys decided to go in a direction of we call it a single destination platform. We call it a single place that people will go. Why did you decide to do that? What was the reasoning and impetus behind that?
You know, so when we're looking at what our audience needs, whether it's us testing it or because of what we believe, how we can approach something, right? This experience, you know, and we've talked about this a little bit before, the H word, hybrid experience, right? You know, PCMA has been doing hybrid experiences for over 10 years. There's just a lot more people paying attention to what that looks like now. There's a lot of conversation about, is it synchronous or asynchronous? And we have chosen this year, both at EduCon and what we're doing for convening leaders, is to have blended audience experiences, right? So when you do that, you need that seamless experience, right? You call it the single destination platform. I call it my seamless experience that we're trying to create. And the reality is we're still curating an experience for the digital audience that is going to be online with us, that is specific to them, different, you know, or some similarities that our face-to-face audience in Vegas will experience. Sometimes those sessions, the audience will be blended. But regardless of where they connect on session A, B, or C, their conversations are all captured in one place because of JUNO, right? And it can be session specific, you know, and it will also be able to be like in the chapters, right? If those groups want to gather digitally and face-to-face, they can still all be connected regardless of where they are. Because if you're in Vegas, you're carrying around your phone. Right?
You know what's so weird, Tonya? We gather digitally and face-to-face all day long. Even at a conference, how many times are you texting?
Right.
Group texting.
Social media.
Then meeting up, then group texting. It's not like this is some new concept. We literally do it. We literally digitally and physically engage all day long. And now the question is, can we do it in a way that allows it to be smarter, gives us a longer tail? And then even when we talked about this just before everybody gone, what happens when PCMA CL22 is over? Is that experience over? Is that content over? Is it a wrap? Is it see you next year? Or is there life to still be had after that moment?
Oh, absolutely. We, you know, the story arc that we are telling and creating started, you know, a couple months ago. What we're building and leading up to now, what will take place January 9 to 12, and beyond, right? So we've always extended the experience. I think now we're doing it more intentionally with that design, right? Our members have always had the opportunity to view content after the fact, right? So after that 60 days, okay, here's what's available. So now we're being intentional about, also because of resources, we all have resource challenges, whether it's time or money or people, right? And when you go to an experience, you want to see what's going to create the highest impact and value for you, right? What you want. So when we think about our digital experience, we're curating what we believe is the best of the best that you will be able to watch and participate in during those 3 days, right? Now, it doesn't mean that some of the content that isn't being live streamed isn't going to be available to that audience. And we're doing it in different ways, again, to showcase here's a way where, again, we had to make choices based on resources. Yep. We are going to stream, and also human behavior. How many choices do you really need? Because given too many, like Netflix kind of blows my mind sometimes. And I'm like, I don't even know what to watch. And people have told me like 10 favorite shows, and I get there and I'm like, you know, it's overwhelming. Sure. But, you know, we're curating what that best of is in the live stream, knowing that within JUNO, we have that CL library to be intentional about when we roll that content out, having facilitated discussions, continuing the conversation with some of our subject matter experts from, you know, the show, and continuing the conversations among the community as well.
So, and that's what makes an ecosystem work, right? So when you talk about, okay, seamless single destination platform, what does that mean? It means that I can go experience the event of CL22. It means that I can go to the on-demand library and watch stuff. We talked about this with Bobby Hurd a couple weeks ago, that we have an 80% problem or opportunity. 80% of our people don't show up to an event. Like, if you really look at, like, I talk to you all the time, how many members do you have? 20,000. How many show up? Oh, that's a different number.
Right. And every association's got that different, here, I'm a card carrying member versus who show up.
Yep. And then the second one is how much content gets consumed at the event. You produce 100% of the content, and an individual goes, well, with time constraints, with networking, all the serendipitous moments where all of a sudden I bumped into somebody and said, hey, let's have a coffee, and it goes long, and then we miss the session we're going to go to, 80% of content doesn't get consumed. Right. So now you've got this 80% thing sitting out here called people and content. And you go, what are we going to do with that 80%? Well, it's an opportunity. And so now all of a sudden it says, hey, miss some sessions, go to our on-demand. And what we've got now when we roll out PCMA is you've got your entire chapter experience where you can go into your chapters, and there's forums, and there's content, and there's networking. You've got all your on-demand. You've got your learning center where you can go in there and take courses, your credentialing. Now you've got a single place where you go, okay, this is our seamless home.
Right.
And we are not going to miss the people or the content that PCMA has to offer. And I think for every organization, we're always tasked with delivering on our value proposition.
Always.
What's our value proposition? Right. We're going to educate you, and we're going to connect you.
Right.
Like, that's our value prop at the end of the day. There's other things, but at the end of the day, like, we're going to give you the leading edge stuff, and we're going to connect you to people that help you do business. Gosh, if we could do that all year long.
Right.
And we had an individual. So that's what gets us excited.
Well, right. And I think, you know, when you think about like marketing and creating drip campaigns, that's kind of how the content needs to be rolled out as well. Again, we don't need to overwhelm our audience, right? Yeah. And knowing that they are already strapped for time, our precious resource. The other piece of it is with the single destination point is that it is mobile. You can find it when and where you need to, and you're going to have that same experience, right? And I think that the value of that is important because life happens. Whether you have to take your dog for a walk and you've got your AirPods in, or you're, you know, driving in the car like commuters. I mean, that's why podcasts became so popular, right? Because of commuting time and waiting in airports and things like that. So to be able to take that content with you and still connect with the community, right? Like whether it is like, you know, an instant message kind of a thing, or, you know, those video chats. And I think also to me is sharing it removes some of those boundaries of travel, the global, right? Of being able to say, okay, I can still converse with my friend in Germany and we're talking about the same content, right? Germany, Barcelona, wherever they may be, Singapore, right? And that audience, we're able to curate that with removing the borders and the boundaries that have existed and the cost, right? I mean, regardless of the pandemic, there's always been that cost associated with that travel. And this eliminates that ability to say, I miss connecting with them.
I think that's the point to democratize opportunity, you know, is so important. And you never know what's going on in someone's life. You never know when the spouse just lost the job, when the child just made the travel team and it's now $4,000 to go, you know, travel around the area and play sport, whatever it is, you don't know what's going on and what's going to limit somebody's opportunity. So how do you democratize opportunity? And you do it through technology. I've always said this, JUNO, and I've been in community tech for 15 years, building custom solutions and everything else. But I've always said this to our clients too. JUNO will never replace face-to-face.
Absolutely.
Never. And people said to me, "Oh, you think you're going to replace face-to-face?" No, I don't want to. I love people. No way. Right. It extends it. It's an extension opportunity. And the more we can look at this as more democratizing opportunity, the more that we can then stop trying to stop something and get excited about something. And that is true with we're stoked about the mobile app. I mean, being able to have real feeds where people can share all sorts of media, where you can see who the system's recommending you should be connecting with. Right. I connect more with people on LinkedIn on my phone than I do on my laptop. And so
yeah. So tell me about, like, that's one of the questions, obviously, like, so we continued our relationship, right, with JUNO. And one of the reasons was because of the app helps extend the experience and makes it seamless. So is that why JUNO said we have to have an app? I mean, obviously you've built them in the past with CrowdHub and other things. So,
I just think a second screen experience is so important, and it's a different use. So here's a fun little like tech talk. An app, a successful app is when it is a successful utility. A successful app is when it's a successful utility. So what does that mean? A utility is a function, right? So most of the apps I use, they perform a function. Spotify, it performs the function of delivering music to me. My maps, you know, like last night I was going to meet a friend for a drink, and it's like, hey, we know that you go to RSFN 85% of the time when you go to your car at night. So it, like, my phone pops up and says, hey, it's 10 minutes to RSFN. And I'm like, oh, awesome. You know, I know how to get there, but it's a utility. And so when we think about the app, we're like, hey, your web portal, what we're doing right now is an ecosystem. It's your learning, it's your credentialing, it's your on-demand content, it's your events. So it's this ecosystem of connectivity. Your app is a utility that performs some functions that enhance the experience. So what are those? All right, this utility of being able to post content, right? So I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I'm posting that content. It's the utility of being able to chat. So there's these utilities that are happening that I can do wherever I am. So if I'm away from the live session, there's utility. So you think about that of like, there's an ecosystem that's broad and reaching, and then there's a utility that's functional. And they're designed to do two different things. And so often where people fail on this is they try to get the app to be 100% mirror of the platform, and then it's just too much. Or they really don't have the technical ability to create the utility in it. And so you end up having this app that you're like, it's fine, I guess, but I don't really get it. Right. So that was really what came up of saying, hey, when we're going to build a single destination platform and we say, this is your home for life, like this is your forever home. You know, right. You think about that when you're like, this is my apartment, it's my townhome. Okay, this is our forever home. That's right. Where you put so that's where we really think about JUNO's, like, how do you create a forever home environment? And the way that you do that, you think about it, I'll continue with the analogy. Like, it could be the perfect home, but then the backyard, there isn't one. So you're like, man, I love the home, but like, how are we going to like get out there and play ball with the kids? And we could never put a swimming pool in there. And so the perfect home has the ecosystem and the utility. And so that's where we think about this whole bigger story of, you've got your home and you've got your utility. And that's what that app's going to do. And we're always going to be refining that of like, hey, is this little thing when you're out and about performing the utilities you need? Does that make sense?
Yes, but yes. And because I think the way I see it is, years ago, people would go to events, right? And they download the app and then they delete it when they leave.
Sure.
And the point about the experience for JUNO in what we're creating for PCMA and convening leaders this year is it's a continuation, right? It is a continuation of the community and the education, right? So it is becoming it will be become that community place where you can always find somebody to connect to. And, you know, again, I think one of the new highlights that I'm looking forward to for convening leaders is kind of that social feed, right? But it's not on your social media. You don't have to go to Twitter and you know, and start up a chat with your friends. Not that you couldn't, and you all comment on how great Dan Levy was, right? I mean, we know that's going to happen, or we're expecting, right? So, and Scott Galloway and all of our other keynotes, special announcement coming out today in your inbox, by the way. Oh. So that'll be fun for everybody. But, you know, I think that social highlight feed that we are creating for convening leaders gives everyone a place to talk about the experience themselves, and not just within a session, right? That it's across the platform. And I think that provides big value for everyone. And
I love what you're saying of like, if we create an app that you delete after the event, we failed. We failed. You know, that's like thinking about 20 years ago. You know, when I first got into the app world, this was now what, oh gosh, 13 years ago. And everybody had to have an app, you know, and you create them, and then you're like, why do I have this on my phone? And then do you remember back in the day, I don't know if they've just made so much more processing now, but remember it's like, hey, you're out of space, delete some apps. And you know, so all those things. But if you don't, if after convening leaders, people delete the app, then we have failed to communicate the value proposition of not just the tech, but of our brand. Because our value proposition is to connect and educate you. And it's to create vehicles to deliver on that value proposition. We know we've got the vehicles. We know we've got the value proposition. Now we got to make sure we're communicating it well, if that makes sense. We know we got the content and the people, right? We know that the members of PCMA are worth knowing. We know the content of PCMA is worth consuming. We know the vehicles that we've created are worth using. Now it's our job. This is where the whole process of a company works, right? Like you innovate, you create, and then you market the crap out of it and make sure people are using it. So this whole continuum is the process that we all are responsible for, meaning at PCMA and JUNO, to make sure we do well. So yes, if you delete the app after the event, if you don't come back to your chapter and hang out, if you're not engaging in courses, if you're not getting credentialed, if you're not consuming content, we've got to look in the mirror and go, we know our people are worth knowing. We know our content's worth consuming. We know our vehicles are worth using. We got to make sure that we message clearly and create opportunities.
Yep.
How's that for a stump speech?
I like it. You know, so taking a look at one of the questions that were posed is about, you know, about the app and how's it being marketed, right? But mainly for in-person with digital experience, digital attendees on the JUNO desktop versus assuming the networking and streaming capabilities are the same. So yes, the capabilities between the app and the desktop are the same, right? Yes, like we are not, you know.
If you start a conversation in the app, you can pick it back up on the web. If you earn points for anything on the app, it's going to translate to the web. So yes, just like you would experience with Facebook or Instagram or anything else, it's a seamless desktop mobile experience, which is awesome. So I can start something on my commute and I can hit pause. And by the time I come back on the desktop, I can pick up where I left off. So it's a seamless ecosystem. It's just, the app is the utility of it, but yes, it's a seamless experience.
We're building out everything in JUNO right now, and that is what our team is focusing on for the next couple of weeks. Once we launch later in December, once we launch, it will be live not only in the App Store to be downloaded and in the everywhere it can be downloaded, but also the link obviously will be sent to all of our registered attendees so that they can create their profile and log in and have that experience as well. So
we should tell them about this is something really cool that we actually piloted. It's called a magic link.
I love the magic link.
I do too, because anybody here can never remember your password.
100%.
Or like my stomach churns when like Gmail's like, hey, you haven't changed your password in like 6 weeks, change. I'm like, it's only been 6 weeks. Like, let me have my password.
Right.
So we built a product for physicians, top physicians in the world, or we're a crowd of another company that I own. And we realized like none of these physicians are ever going to like log in. They're going to get annoyed. So one of the cool things that we leverage is the magic link. So what happens is you sign into your desktop version of JUNO, and in your profile, it says, send me a magic link.
Yeah.
It emails you a link. You click the link and it automatically opens the app. You know, you download the app and then automatically opens the app and you're logged in. You don't have to go.
That alone, like when I saw that feature and we were testing it out when we were kind of looking at the app before it launched, I was like, it's a game changer. Like, you have made the user experience easy. Yep. Like, it's seamless, which again, I know I keep using that word, but here's the thing. You don't want to have to think about those things. We shouldn't. We are busy doing other things. And, you know, finding and tracking down a password is not one that makes us all happy, right? So
nobody wins on JUNO or PCMA when we're getting blown up with emails and like, hey, can you help me with your password, and et cetera, et cetera. Is there a visual indicator of what attendee in person versus digital? Yeah, so you can end up profiling and searching for where's physical, where's remote, like those different things, so you can understand the difference of where people are. So,
right. So part of the onboarding experience, there will be a part of the schedule will be broken out between in-person and digital so that you can see everything, but then you can also, you know, hey, this is the experience I'm looking for. And then again, as we're building out what that on-site or onboarding profile is within JUNO, because of the way we ask guests to register for the event, we have it tagged that way so we can bring it over. I haven't decided if I think it's that important to designate it for the audience, because I want them to just be able to connect to each other regardless of where they are. Whether I'm in Vegas and my friend in Barcelona wants to connect with me, then they should, regardless of, oh, well, she's in Vegas, I don't want to bother her, right? So
well, this is the fun part about this is the fun. The answer to the question is, does it have the ability to do it? Yes. But the boss is the boss. And so, so we will do what the boss says. But I actually like that, because I think you could, I've said this, we don't have a lot of time, but this is a big thing that I believe. We profile people, and it's a weakness of the human nature. I do it, you do it, nobody's above it. You walk to an event and you look at somebody and you go, we're not going to connect. And you do it for two reasons. One, I'm better than you, or two, you're better than me. But there's some weird dynamic that goes on with human nature that profiles people. And I think what you're basically saying here is we're not going to digitally profile.
Right. I mean, that is basically the idea I have, is if we don't put it so front and center, the goal is, again, going back to what we said, creating orchestrated serendipitous moment regardless of where you are, right? So I don't want that preconceived notion of it's, you know, because now, again, the other thing that has changed in JUNO is that if I am somebody, or, you know, all of those notifications and everything lives within JUNO and the app, right? So that's another thing where it has streamlined the user experience so that all of those communications live and breathe in the experience. And so again, again, that preconceived notion, I'm not sure I want to put out there.
Well, and that was, you know, Sarah just asked this question: how are you using JUNO to connect virtual and in-person attendees in an experimental way? Well, the first thing I want to say, or experiential way, the first thing I want to say is, I think you almost just teed on that as well, of like, hey, there's going to be this almost, I don't know where you are, and I don't know who you are, but I know a little thing. So understand this with JUNO, we've got a trending engine for who you should know. So one of the big things we talk a lot about is like, what, 80% of relationships are now forged online, you know, dating relationships, et cetera. So with JUNO, we've got a trending engine that's constantly repopulating, or using our tag-based system. Who are the people in this event, whether physical or digital, that have the highest profile you should connect with, that have most in common with you? Right. So it's going to be constantly refreshing. Hey, Tonya, here's the latest 6 people that are most like you should connect with. And you can connect with them. And you don't know if they're physical or digital. So there's one way, is our trending networking engine. The second one, something we're really excited about, is our chapters. So as we launch CL22, something that's different is every chapter and region will have their own environment where you can go, hey, I might not even be going to CL22. I may have not even bought a ticket to CL22, but I can still go into that room and have some measure of connection and then engage further if I want. So being able to like outreach to people and say by chapter, by interest, and by geolocation, all these things are going to come together to go, I found my way into my chapter in the Rocky Mountain region. And, you know, I wasn't able to go to CL22, but I'm here, or I'm in CL22 and I want to jump into this, to the Rocky Mountain region to see maybe who's not here, but who I want to connect with when I get back.
Exactly.
So those are some really cool ways.
Yeah. This was fun.
Hey, we ran out of time. Hey, always fun to hang and talk and laugh. I can't wait to see you in Vegas. We're going to have fun. And I can't wait to build this all year long.
Yes.
Remember,
continuing the conversation always.
If you delete the app after the event, we failed. So we're going to make this work.
Great. Thanks so much, Josh. Okay. Happy holidays.
You too.